Good evening. It's been a while since I made a video, but I've been wanting to talk to you a little bit. Last few days, I've have been mentally putting together a video I wanted to share with you, and since I began thinking about it, a good friend of mine passed away. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to share about two special women that I've known and met in my lifetime. And what brought this about is, we're at the end of April, just in a few days, couple of weeks, we're going to have Mother's Day. And I have been reading a book that's got me thinking about mothers. And in that process of reading this book, I've been thinking about special women that are mothers in my life. And so I want to, first of all, do a promo for this book and tell you about the book, and then I'll tell you about my two special friends. And it's just like, to me, it's an early Mother's Day gift to say how much I love them and how much I appreciate them. The first thing I want to do is promote this book by Shannon Bream. It's called The Women of the Bible. And what it does is it takes a chapter and does two women, and you'll study 16 women throughout these chapters. And I have enjoyed it because I've read and reread and read over the years these scriptures over and over again, but yet Shannon has brought some things to light that I've somehow looked at and missed. So I've totally enjoyed it. And this is one of the hysterical things I have to tell you about this book. I live here in the condos, and one of the ladies, actually it was a 91-year-old lady, that decided we need to have a prayer group. So you're never too old to start something new. And she started this prayer group. Now she's since moved to Tennessee, but I want you to know us ladies have stayed joined together, and we meet once a month. And we chose this book to go through and to do a chapter a month. And it's been hysterical, wonderful what I've learned. But one of the things that has cracked me up is Shannon Bream. At the end of each chapter, she has some study questions for you. And anyway, you know how, and because she's in she does journalism and she's on the news and things of that way. It makes me think, you know how in the president, when he calls a press conference and all the people, the journalists and the people from the press are there, they raise their hands, they want to ask that question. And finally, the president will point to one and say, you. And then instead of asking a question, they do a question that's part A, B, and C. So one question turns into about 3 or 4, but he only allows them one. And it's always been hysterical to watch these press conferences. Well, I think Shannon's been in 1 or 2 of these press conferences because I want to read a question to you that's from the end of the chapter, just to kind of tell you one of the delightful things that you'll find when you read this book. Now, this is the chapter where we studied Tamar and Ruth. And so this is the second question. So in this particular study, there's only 4 questions at the end, but this is question 2 about Tamar and Ruth. I want you to listen to this question. Look at Numbers 25 and the story of Phinehas, the grandson of Aaron. Now, we're studying about women, but now she wants to talk to me about the grandson of Aaron, Phinehas. What is it that Phinehas does? Read Psalms 106, 28 through 31, and the record of Phinehas's actions here. Why is Phinehas so celebrated in the Bible? What threat did he prevent? How is that threat reversed in the cases of Tamar and Ruth? That's question 2. Now, how many questions was in there? I want to count the question marks on question 2. 1, 2, 3, 4 question marks in question 2. So I guess what I'm really telling you about Shannon's book that I love is she takes you all over the Bible. You think you're studying just about these women, you'll cover so much territory and read and study things you didn't think you would, and it increases your knowledge of the Word of God. And I love that about these books. And Shannon, anybody know Shannon? Want to forward this to her? I have a request to you from the ladies of our prayer group. We want you to do a syllabus the next time you do a book. We're answering these questions, but we want to know what your answers are and how we're matching up with what you were thinking we were going to write down. And I've just had the best time with this book, so I did want to put a plug in for that. The first person I want to talk to you about, that's my special lady, is someone called Hannah Lore Register. And this is in the beginning of 2019. A friend of mine said, Ruth, someone is wanting us to come clean her mom's house. Her mom fell and had been in the nursing home with a broken hip, but she's home now. But she needs somebody to come prepare a meal for her and make enough of a meal to wrap something up so she'll have supper that night and maybe clean just for a couple of hours in the afternoon, keep mom company. And I said, I'll be happy to go get interviewed for that job. And I remember when I got there, the two daughters were there. They're very protective of mom. So they're there with mom to interview me for this position. And I thought, if I was Hannah, what would I want to know about somebody coming into my house? First of all, I have a lot of special things that maybe I've collected over the years. I don't want them walking out the door. I don't want somebody doing Doggy Snoop on my private stuff. And I want them to respect my stuff and take good care of it. So I said, Hannah, and just from the first, I called her Hannah-Lore. I just love that name. She's from Germany and talked with a heavy German accent. And I said, listen, I want to tell you something. I'm not going to touch anything in your house. I said, I live by some principles from the Word of God. It says, be sure and certain your sins will find you out, and what you do in secret will be shouted from the housetop. There's nothing hid that shall not be revealed. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man soweth, that too shall he also reap. I ain't touching your stuff. I ain't Snoop Dogging. I'll do exactly what you ask me and no more. Well, Hannah goes to church. She's been baptized and served the Lord all these years, and she loved that. So I got the job. And I loved it because Hannah, I could tell when she was active, she was a very active person. So when I got there, she says, listen, I can keep myself company. There's some things you can do for me. And she had a list. It was like her honey-do list. But when I was a honey, and when I got there, I started doing. Eventually, she had me going outside, taking the screens off all the windows. So I took that whole time I was with her after she'd been fed, and I had supper put away for later on. I went outside and started taking them screens off. I cleaned her whole house outside, all the windows outside, and I swept her driveway. I watered her 100 plants inside and outside. And that was just one afternoon. The next one, she'd have me doing the kitchen and the bathroom, and she wanted me to take the furniture polish and do all over. Like she had wooden cabinets, natural wooden cabinets. She wanted that taken care of. And she kept me hopping. And when I would do her laundry, it just wasn't a matter of folding the towels, and she wanted them folded a certain way. So I'd have to bring it to her because she had her own way. And you know how it is, ladies. You go into default position when you're folding towels or washcloths, your sheets or whatever. You do the way you always do. She's, no, bring that to me. And she would say it in that heavy German accent of hers. Anyway, at the end of that same year, 2019, she went back into the nursing home. She got so that she wasn't steady on her walker and couldn't stay by herself any longer. And I remember right there at the end of the month, now none of us knew COVID was coming, but she slipped away right there at the end. And her daughters came faithfully every day to that nursing home. And if they didn't make it every day, they were there every other day. They were constantly either there together or they were rotating those days. So Miss Hannah never lacked for attention and care from her daughters. And right after that, you'll remember at the end of February, March, COVID slipped in, and they would not have been able to go see their mom in that nursing home. And I thought, how merciful was the Father that he let Hannah go home, and those girls got to be there all that time with their mom. And it was such a blessing to me. And right there towards the end, when Hannah knew, that we're going to have to start, she started dispersing our goods because she knew I'm not going to be able to go back home and live on my own again. She said, Ruth, I've got 2 matching chairs in my living room. Would you like them? I said, Hannah, I don't have room for another thing. Thank you for offering it to me. I thought it was so kind that she would offer me. And she known me once a year, but I'm telling you, we made fast friends. We had the best time laughing and telling stories and reading the Bible. Anyway, she did have a coffee cup that I loved, and I wanted to show you this coffee cup because I said, well, Hannah, there is something in your house that you want, but I'm afraid your daughters are going to want it first or your grandchildren. But if it's not wanted and there's no claim on it, I'd like to put a claim on it. So I want to show you what I got from Miss Hannah's house. It's the name of where she was from in Germany. And she could say the name of that and just say it, I'll spit it out like in 3 seconds. But anyway, that's my keepsake. It's a coffee cup that I got from Miss Hannah's house. And I normally have a picture of me and her because I took several pics of me and her. And I just want to honor her today. She's in the presence of the Lord. And I have one story I want to tell about Hannah before I tell you about another friend. Hannah, years before she had a surgery, had to go in for surgery, and something went wrong in that surgery, and they lost her for a few seconds. And she said in those few seconds when they couldn't get a heartbeat and they were trying to revive her, she went to heaven. She said she met her husband. They were walking along a road that was by a river, and up ahead was a mountain, and everybody was walking towards that mountain. She said that was passing them on that road. And she said behind the mountain, this bright light was emanating. And she said everyone was heading towards that light. And so I don't know, there must have been a special ceremony about to go on. And she said that while they walked along the river, she said there was a little fish, and the little fish would jump up and look at him and jump down and look and come up and look at him. And so it followed them along the walkway as they walked. And she said her husband was talking to her because he'd gone on to heaven years before in another language that she didn't know, but the Lord allowed her to understand what he was saying to her. And he got to a point in the road and he said, Hannah, you're not going to be able to go with me today, but the next time you come back, we'll finish this walk together. And she said in the next moment, she was back in the hospital in the surgery. Of course, she survived the surgery and survived to tell me that story. And I love that little story from Hannah. So she is now with her husband, and she's in a wonderful place. Now I'm switching gears. I'm going to go to someone completely different. Years ago, I wanted to kind of do the preamp on this story. My daughter, my oldest daughter, got an ear infection, and it got worse and it got worse. It got so bad that every day, and I know this sounds kind of gross, but it would get so full of infection and coming out her ear, she had to go get it drained out, and the doctor kept getting her antibiotics going higher and higher and higher, and he finally told her, he said, listen, this next antibiotic is as high as we have, and he said, if we don't get this infection under control, you're going to have to go in the hospital. And so she is like in abject misery. And she's saying, Mama, pray, please pray. And so I'm on my face before the Father, and I'm saying, Lord, I have the faith. I believe in you, and I believe you can heal her. And that's what I said. I have the faith. Do you know what the Lord said to me? He said, show me your faith. Now, I want to stop right there and ask you, if you told the Lord, I have faith to believe for her healing, Lord, and he says, show me your faith, what would you do? I'm just telling you, you want to see my faith? And don't ask me why. You know, I tell everybody when I tell the story, I do have a blonde hair for a reason. But this is a true story, my hand to Jesus. I said, you want to see faith? So I went down to the jailhouse, the city jail, and I filled out a sheet of paper. I said, I want to go minister to the prisoners. And I want to know, can I bring some stuff to them, like what's allowable? And they said I could bring fruit and certain candies. So I went down to Sam's. I bought $100 worth of goodies, and I got a couple of girls. Well, at that time, so here I am, and you're saying, so I'm going to the prison house because I'm going to show God faith so my daughter's ear can get healed. And so, I know that sounds crazy. I was with a friend of mine one day at lunch. I worked in downtown Savannah, and she invited somebody I'd never met before, and she said, Ruth, tell her the story about your daughter's ear. So I started telling. And you know, I don't apologize for my relationship with the Lord. It's real. It works. And he's alive, and what I love about him is he knows you and your personality, and he's going to relate to you. He's going to have dreams for you. He's going to have words for you that your little personality is going to understand. Nobody else might get it, but you'll get it because he knows you. Inside and out, he knows every thought you've ever had, every deed you've ever done. He knows every half a word you ever said because there's a recording angel recording it 24/7. You know, he says we're going to give account for every idle word. So we want to do what set a watchman over our mouth. Anyway, I tell her the story, and she starts laughing. I literally thought she was going to fall out on the floor in this restaurant. And she said, wait a minute, wait just a minute. Let me get you straight. Your daughter has an ear infection that is bad, and your answer for her ear infection is for you to go take some goodies to prisoners? And the city jail? Yep, that's exactly it. But that was me showing the Father my faith. Now, don't ask me why I chose that. I'll tell you what the mental thought was. Satan, you done come to my house? You got the nerve to come to my house and mess with my baby? You done mess with the wrong somebody, let me tell you. So I'm coming to your house. I'm going to mess with your babies. I'm going to tell them about God's great salvation, his plan for you that is far above all that you can even ask or think. He wants to do exceedingly abundantly above anything you can ever dream of. And I wanted to share that. Doesn't matter where you're at, what you've done, if you're innocent or if you're guilty, God has something, the free gift of salvation for you. He wants your name written down in the Lamb's Book of Life. That's exactly right. He messed with my baby girl, I'm going to go mess with his baby girls. And I want you to know I went to 3 cell blocks and passed that out. And I told that story about my daughter. I was here because my daughter's ear needed healing. And I know they're probably still talking about that. But you know what? It didn't make a never mind to me. I was making my point. And can I pause right there? And I know I talk long, and I am a woman, and I can go off. My husband says I go off on rabbit trails. I go off on rabbit trails so far, I never even find myself back to my regular spot. But I'll come back to this spot. But I had a friend one time whose child was sick, and he was right at a point where his insurance had lapsed, and he was between insurance, and his wife called and said, "You've got to come home now, that this fever is going outrageous, and we're going to have to take her to the hospital." On the way home, he got so mad at Satan for touching his baby girl. He pulled over and he said, "You don't have a right." He put that car in park. He went out to the first door he could come to. He knocked on the door. He said, "Can I come into you? I want to come into your house. I would like to talk to you about God's great salvation." This family invited him in. He led the entire family to the Lord on his way home to go check on his little girl. He came back to his car and he said, "Listen up, Satan. If I get home and my little girl has even 1 degree of temperature, I'm going to come back and I'm going to finish this street and I'll win everybody on this block to Jesus. Do not mess with me." He's in heaven today. And I love that story. So anyway, this is how I met my friend when we went to the prison. The chaplain, they introduced me to the chaplain, and there was a lady there that was always already doing prison work there, and her name was Karen Brinson. Well, I got word that this weekend, just this past weekend, Miss Karen got promoted to glory. And while I'm praying for her family, because she has a beautiful family that really love her, and tons of friends that are going to miss her, and I'll pray comfort of the peace of the Holy Ghost. I'm so glad she has got her promotion, got her graduation cap, got the honors, and you know what? She's got a crown on her head that she's going to cast at Jesus' feet because he paid it all. We all get to go because of sweet Jesus. So anyway, I wanted to honor my friend Hannah Register. I wanted to honor my friend Karen Brinson. Beautiful, beautiful people in the Lord. And I wanted to promote this book that is off the chain and will definitely take you places you didn't know that you would go. You know what? I don't know what God has planned for tomorrow, but I know who holds tomorrow, and he holds it well. We can trust him. We can have confidence in him. We can be so excited. There's nothing that he will not do for you. Will you call on his name in faith, believing? Just say, "Jesus, I need you. Come into my life. Touch me. Lord, I haven't been perfect. In fact, I've been a failure in a lot of areas. Will you forgive me? Will you put it beneath the blood? Give me a clean slate. Wipe it all away. Let me just start fresh." Do you know that he will do that for you? He is that faithful. God bless you, and until we meet again,